Wally asked Anita how her daughter Heather was doing. Heather had always been a dutiful, loving daughter. She got married about 10 years ago, at the age of 23. It was the first marriage for her and her husband, Ben. And they had 2 kids. Everything seemed fine, even though Heather was the only one working. Ben had gotten laid off 2 years ago. He was still looking for work. They were fortunate because Heather's grandma loved her to death. She had bought a house for Heather as a wedding gift, so Ben and Heather had no mortgage to pay, not 1 penny. Grandma asked only that Heather call her twice a month. Recently, Grandma had asked Anita what was wrong with Heather. Anita said she didn't understand. Nothing was wrong. Then why hasn't she called, Grandma asked. Anita said she would talk to Heather. She left several messages, but Heather didn't call back. Anita drove over to the house. Ben was home taking care of the kids. "Where's Heather?" Anita asked. "She went to the beach," Ben told her. "Without you and the kids?" Ben was reluctant to talk, but he did. Heather had started smoking again. Even worse, she had found a boyfriend. She had met this guy at work, and things got out of hand. Ben didn't know what to do. If he filed for divorce, he might be out on the street with 2 kids to support. If he didn't get a divorce, he had to live with the humiliation of being supported by a wife who was cheating on him. Anita was astounded at her daughter's selfish actions. She drove home and called her mom. Grandma said that hopefully it was just a phase that Heather was going through. She told Anita to make sure to remind Heather to call. Zach drove over to his fiance's place. She was in China visiting her parents. Her son Bradley hadn't gone with her. Bradley was a junior in high school. He neither liked nor disliked Zach. Even though he had known Zach for 3 years, Zach was still trying to win Bradley over. He called Bradley to tell him that he was coming over. Bradley said okay. When Zach got there, he checked all of Christine's mail to see if there were any bills to pay. There were none. He asked if Bradley wanted to drive Zach's car. Bradley had a driver's permit and was always pestering his mom to let him drive her car. Bradley said all right. Zach told him not to speed, but he could drive anywhere he wanted. Bradley got on the 210 freeway and headed northwest to where it meets the 5. Zach gave Bradley a few driving tips. Don't drive next to big rigs, because you never know when they might tip over and crush you. Don't drive behind pickup trucks with loads, because you never know when something in the truck will get airborne and come flying through your windshield. On their way back, Zach suggested that they stop at the driving range. He wanted to show Bradley how to play golf. Bradley wasn't enthusiastic. He preferred his video games. But Bradley soon discovered that golf was fun. He hit a large bucket of balls. Zach told him that he had a natural swing. The next day, Bradley, for the first time ever, called Zach. He had a few blisters on his hands. Zach said that was normal. Then Bradley asked if Zach would come by next Saturday so they could take a drive and hit golf balls again. Zach said of course, with a happy feeling in his heart. It was only a '93 Lincoln, but he loved it. Not a ding on it. Only 75,000 miles, even though it was 14 years old. The leather seats were like new, as was the headliner. All the bells and whistles worked, including the cruise control and the power seats and mirrors. It even got 14 miles per gallon. What was not to love? She hated it. She hated it because she thought he loved his car more than he loved her. "We can't go anywhere because all you do is worry about what will happen to your car," she complained. "The last time we went shopping, after an hour you stopped talking and listening to me. You had that long face. I knew what you were thinking about." "What was I thinking about?" he asked. "You were thinking about your Lincoln." She continued. "When we went out to the parking lot, You walked all around it to check for fresh dings. Then, when you saw none, you unlocked the car and got in. As usual, you didn't open the door for me because you were so busy adjusting the airflow out of the dashboard vents. I just do that to make you feel comfortable, he said. If you really want to make me feel comfortable, she said, sell this car. Let's go to Walmart, Elizabeth told Kenneth. She wanted to buy some paint supplies. He suggested that they go to Home Depot instead because employees there could tell them exactly what to buy. After arriving there, Elizabeth found a friendly-looking worker who was momentarily free. "Excuse me," she said, "could you help us?" She explained that she wanted to paint her office. "Neither me nor my husband knows how to do it, so please tell us the basics," she added. He smiled and told her that it was simple. All they needed were 2 gallons of white glossy paint, a roller, a tray and an insert to pour the paint in, and an extension handle to reach the high parts of each wall. "Don't we need primer?" Kenneth asked. "Oh, yes, of course. I was getting to that. If you don't put primer on first, the paint won't stick to the walls. Here are 2 gallons of good but inexpensive primer, and a brush would be a good idea for use in the corners and edges, and that should take care of it. Just put the primer on first, let it dry for a couple of hours, then put on 1 coat of paint, let it dry. Then, if you want to, put on another coat, but it shouldn't be necessary." As they were putting the items into the trunk, Kenneth told her they should buy a ladder, too. "We're going to have to use the brush to paint up near the ceiling. The roller won't do in a corner," Kenneth said. "We don't need a step ladder. I can sit on your shoulders," Elizabeth laughed. They went back inside and bought a step ladder.